Welcome to this slide presentation which describes the history of the doctorate and evolution of the university in the United States.
This slide presentation provides a brief history of higher education in the United States, including the development of graduate and doctoral education. It is provided to place your doctoral journey at Baker into context, and to communicate the significance of what it means to hold the doctoral degree.
The modern university evolved from the medieval schools known as studia generalia. They were generally recognized places of study open to students from all parts of Europe. The earliest studia arose out of efforts to educate clerks and monks beyond the level of the cathedral and monastic schools. The University of Bologna in Italy, founded in the year 1088, is the oldest university in the world, the word university, Latin, universitas, having been coined at its foundation. The emergence of medieval universities in Paris, Oxford, Bologna, and elsewhere provide the main setting for medieval philosophy in the 13th century and beyond. The medieval mind conceived of the whole of human society as unified in Christ in terms of his royal, priestly and prophetic roles. This threefold authority was seen as being embodied in three coordinate earthly institutions: the state, based on law; the church, found on revelation; and the university, upheld by reason. To this day, this concept is preserved in the symbolism of the Western world by the gowns worn by justices in court, ministers in church, and professors and graduates at commencement. From this model also are derived the modern baccalaureate, master's, and doctorate degrees, with all the tangible rights and privileges, and all the economic importance, pertaining thereto. Diploma derives from the Greek diplos, to double or fold in half, and described the letter of introduction provided by diplomats establishing their bona fides. It took on its academic sense as 1682, in England. Doctor derives from the Latin, docere, to show or teach. The meaning of holder of highest degree in university is first found around 1375. The meaning medical professional dates from 1377, though this was not common till late 16th century.
German universities created many of the educational techniques in use today. For example, academic freedom, Lernfreiheit, was and is essential for the training of scholars and professionals. The scholar can investigate any and all problems in the course of research and reveal findings, whatever they might be, in teaching and in published works. The German universities created new instructional techniques such as the seminar, the specialist's lecture, the laboratory and the monographic study. They emphasized the scientific method and the precise measurement of factual data. Between 1815 and the First World War, 10,000 American students passed through the halls of German universities. The great majority were after 1850. Because by that point, America's own technological and educational needs expanded to a point where this was urgently required. The antebellum denominational college had no use for German scholarship, and rather feared it.
After the Civil War, American society became more industrialized, urban, specialized and secular. Some universities, such as Yale and Harvard, sent their faculty to Germany for training. This was an early version of a sabbatical. American scholars brought back exact research and scientific specialization, but not German philosophic idealism. They were vastly too pragmatic to be slowed down by these enormous, amorphic questions. Originally, Americans could not go to Oxford and Cambridge unless they were Anglican. This requirement was abolished in 1871. In 1636, a 31-year-old minister, John Harvard, started Harvard College, beginning the era of the colleges. Study was focused on Latin, Greek, and mathematics. The approach was based on discipline and providing students the furniture of the mind. Discipline meant expanding the power of the mind through memorization, and furniture meant storing it with knowledge. Colonial colleges were primarily involved in the conserving of existing knowledge rather than the search for new knowledge. They were more concerned about forming character, placed a great value on residential life, and were primarily concerned with training a special elite for community leadership. As late as 1872, at Harvard and at Yale, the M.A. was awarded to all college men 3 years after graduation, who were not in jail, and who were willing to pay a small fee. Master's degrees were not earned at Yale until 1847, or shortly thereafter. One of the most influential documents in the history of American higher education was the Yale Report of 1828. The report consisted of 2 parts, a general discussion of the nature of liberal education, and an argument for the retention of Greek and Latin literature in the college curriculum. It was a staunch defense of the traditional way of teaching a fixed set of topics identically for each and every student in classical language, literature, and science, the so-called trivium and quadrivium. The trivium made was up of grammar, logic, and rhetoric. Following the preparatory work of the trivium, the quadrivium consisted of arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. In turn, the quadrivium was considered preparatory work for the serious study of philosophy and theology. These topics had been taught to young men, not yet women, with only minor changes for 700 years. Yale would eventually follow more liberal American universities, such as Harvard, and introduce an elective system in a rich diversity of modern scientific, social scientific and humanistic course offerings. The stultifying coursework in early American universities eventually produced a new cycle of reform. Historically, one curriculum had replaced another. Now progress in higher education led to the rise of the extracurriculum. Literary societies, debate clubs, fraternities, and sororities, started in the 1820s and by the 1840s were everywhere. Fraternities prepared young men to take their place among men, not among angels. The gymnastics movement spread at the same time, although Puritans objected to the play inherent in sports. Daniel C. Gilman served for 25 years as president of Johns Hopkins. His inauguration in 1876 has been said to mark the starting point of postgraduate education in the U.S. He recruited the brightest and the best faculty. Not one came from Baltimore or even Maryland. He spent his money on faculty, not bricks and mortar. Under the heading Department of Philosophy, he instituted chairs in language, mathematics, ethics, history, and science. Gilman saw Hopkins as having definite social responsibilities. It should perform certain essential functions for civilization, such as advancing knowledge, and applying the fruits of research to problems of daily living. Hopkins created programs in the United States modeled after the German PhD, ushering in the era of universities, following the era of colleges.
German influence also gave rise to research libraries, and the subdivision of the curriculum into courses and departments. In the 1870s, Melville Dewey and Justin Windsor pioneered a new philosophy for college libraries, claiming that a book is never so useful as when it is in use. Librarianship emerged as a profession. University presses also emerged as a way of disseminating knowledge, and learned societies are founded, the Invisible College of Scholars, along with scholarly journals, all hallmarks of a maturing profession of scholars. In 1876, 44 PhDs were awarded. By 1918, there were 562 PhDs. In 1924, 1,064, in 1940 3,088, and in 1950 6,633. By 1960, 9,000 a year. In 2014, over 50,000 doctoral degrees were earned at U.S. universities. The average age for graduating with a doctoral degree in the United States is between 30 and 35. The average time to the DG from receiving the bachelor's degree is 10 years. These numbers are skewed by the traditional program. It is our expectation that students in the Baker DBA will complete the program in 3 years, while working full-time. In 1973, the Council of Graduate Schools promulgated alternative approaches to graduate education. The approaches opened up graduate education to a broader audience and purpose. In 2005, the Woodrow Wilson Foundation found that doctoral education needed reform and proposed the following principles. You will recognize that the Baker DBA program follows these principles, as well as those issued by the Council of Graduate Schools. Woodrow Wilson Foundation, the responsive PhD. 4 principles. 1. The PhD degree requires strong graduate schools and graduate deans with real budgets and real scope. A far stronger central administrative structure than typically exists at present. 2. The doctorate in totality and in every discipline will benefit enormously by a continuing interchange with the worlds beyond academia. The doctorate needs to be open to the world and to engage social challenges more generously. 3. A larger next generation of PhDs of color must become still more of a priority. 4. The quality of doctoral education depends upon assessment with reasonable consequences. Excellence is a receding horizon. Progress toward it is measured by the degree of success in achieving concrete objectives that can be rewarded through commensurate increases in valued resources.
Specifically, the purpose of the Doctorate in Business Administration at Baker College is to graduate managers, business leaders, and scholar practitioners able to contribute to a deeper understanding of business and management processes in an increasingly complex world through applied research, teaching, and scholarship, continuously to improve their performance and the quality of their business decisions through reflective practice and lifelong learning, and to make a difference in the life of their organizations, professions, and the larger worldwide community through service to social and professional organizations and by conducting themselves in accordance with the highest ethical standards. The DBA, like other doctoral programs, includes taught and assessed modules that are designed to support independent supervised research. An interdisciplinary approach is taken to the taught curriculum and support is provided for considerable personal development, helping students achieve not only proficiency as scholars and researchers, but also a greater level of effectiveness as professional practitioners and/or managers. Therefore, the research and scholarship produced in the program will focus on real business and managerial problems. As a professional doctorate, the Baker College DBA has been designed not only to make a contribution to our theoretical understanding of business and management, but also to inform and impact practice. Thank you for your attention to this presentation. You should now review the ALP and DBA program description documents provided in assignment folder. After reviewing these, please post any questions in the online discussion board.